we're very complex human beings, and there's lots of factors good at knowing where we're going to go very quickly. Our brains generally are more aware of everything. We're more sensitive to life. And I read through the list of symptoms, and not at one point did I go, oh, that's me. A portion of people who have ADHD experience some form of challenge with drugs and alcohol or some form of substance. Key strategy is knowing to stop and step away from the desk. It's really boring. It's really standard advice. Eat well, avoid alcohol, get sleep, exercise, hang out with your friends, go out in nature, laugh. I want everyone on this planet to have just a great life.
Entrepreneurship is never a straightforward journey to success. It can be messy, unpredictable, and sometimes brutally unforgiving, and my guest today knows this firsthand. He's an 18-year entrepreneurial veteran and built a highly successful multi-million-pound food manufacturing business from the ground up, only to see it crumble before his eyes during the pandemic. But true to resilience, he went on to build two more further highly successful businesses, Corn Cobs and Cookie Jar, and is now a passionate advocate for normalizing failure, mental well-being, and the often overlooked realities of entrepreneurship. He is also the host of podcast How Not to Run a Business and a proud member of the LGBTQ community, and he's done all of this whilst navigating life with ADHD. So today he brings with his unique and honest perspective of leadership and business. So if you've ever faced adversity, setbacks, health challenges on your entrepreneurial journey, then this conversation is really for you. Are you struggling at the moment with your health, fitness and wellness? Are you feeling under immense pressure, stress, anxiety? Are you waking up with that dread? You've got lots of tasks, lots of projects you want to do, and on the surface you're feeling very excited about it, but for some reason there is still this dread and this anxiety. Or perhaps with your health and wellness, you've got chronic pain, and it's not just been there for a few days or weeks, it's been there for months, perhaps it's been there for years, but now it's inflamed, it's getting worse, and it's now affecting things like your sleep, your work, your performance, perhaps even your relationships, and you don't know what to do about it. Because even though on the surface you're taking all the practical steps, you're going to see the doctor, the physio, the trainer, the massage therapist, maybe you're having MRIs, maybe you're doing the breath work, the meditation, but for some reason there isn't a shift and you're not able to get past this huge block or barrier that you can't seem to understand why it's there, because it's completely out of character. After all, you're normally a proactive, positive, high-performing person, but for now you are really struggling to get that motivation and that drive that you normally have, and you want to get that back, especially when it comes to your health and fitness, because being in a state of chronic pain is no fun. Well, this is why I developed Mind Drive. Mind Drive is your solution to overcoming chronic pain, getting rid of those mental blocks, those mental barriers that are holding you back, and being able to take that step forward into a better quality of life and get back to the life that you desire, that performance, that proactivity, that productivity, enjoying every aspect of your life in work, relationships, health and fitness, and feel really at your peak, really energized. Well, I have developed a free guide for you to get you started on this journey to better health, better fitness, so you can actually elevate your mind, heal your body, and reclaim your life. Now, in this guide, it's going to show you what the reasons are, the causes perhaps, that you're feeling very stuck and you're not able to move forward. It's going to show you how perhaps on this occasion the reasons those traditional methods are not working. And we're also going to give you some inspiring stories and some practical steps that you can follow to help get you started on this journey to better health and a better life, the life that you desire. So all you have to do is completely free guide. All you have to do is click the link in the description, or you can head over to the website at teamclinicservices.com and you can download it for there. But for now, I want to thank you and I look forward to hearing your comments, your thoughts. But for now, back to this episode in our Unleash Your Inner Athlete series. Have a great day. Well, hello and welcome to the show. And thank you, Jeremy, for joining us today. It's great to have you here. And we're going to be getting into your story, your experience, and obviously later on giving your tips, your strategies for overcoming, the problems of diagnosis of ADHD, your successes and failures in business, and how you can work through that and actually make these challenges that you face work in your favor. So before we get into all of that, just tell everyone, the listeners, a little bit about yourself, your history, because obviously you had tremendous success in business. As I mentioned before, you had a multi-million pound business that, due to the pandemic, it crashed and failed before your eyes, but you then went on to build on these two other fantastic businesses, Corn Cob and Cookie Jar. Yes. So explain a little bit about your journey so people get a good idea who you are, what you're doing, and why this is so important for you.
Sure. Well, thank you, and the lovely little intro there to me. So I am 45 years old. I'm going to give you all the details, but not too much detail. I'm 45. I'm a cisgender white gay man. Grew up in the southeast of England. I live in Sussex with my husband, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and yeah, my journey with where I've ended up today. I'm not even sure where to begin. I've always wanted to work for myself and run my own business. That was always in the back of my mind. But I went down the traditional route. I say traditional, certainly when I was growing up, the traditional route, pretty much more or less. Went to school, went to college. I actually left college. I didn't want to go straight to university. I didn't want to go to university at all, actually. I wanted to work. I wanted to earn money. And so I left college and went to work in a call center and had a great time. Loved that job, talking to people all day and fixing problems. And then a few years into that, I decided I did want to go to university. So I went off to university at 21 and did a degree in multimedia studies and got a job as a web designer in a small agency in Brighton and worked my way up the air quotes corporate ladder. Moved up to London, had a job up there. And then in the credit crunch recession of 2008, 2009, I took voluntary redundancy from my role. And that's when I started working for myself. I started doing digital marketing. That's what I was in, digital marketing. So mostly search engine advertising, search engine marketing for big agencies. And so I went and started to do that as a consultant and working with private clients. And at the same time, I started a cupcake business for my mum, which I never had any plans in getting involved in. The idea was my mum was going to make cupcakes and deliver them around the local area. And we grew that to a 7-figure a year business, supplying airlines, retail outlets, and we were like what calls a code manufacturer. So we produced a lot of product for businesses, went into supermarkets all over the country and internationally as well. And as you rightly said, COVID came along and upended my life, and we can get into more detail about that. And now I have a coaching business, coaching and mentoring business owners, mostly solo business owners, mostly in the service sector, ADHD and neurotypical, but I do specialize in working with ADHD coaching clients. And then I have Corn Cobs, all food related names, you'll guess, and pretty abstract actually. People go, why is your business called Corn Cobs? And I'm like, well, don't know, just like the name. And Cobbs, Jacobs, it's some random thing there. That's my that's the beauty I see of my brain as I come up with these random things. And so I also work with businesses to help them mostly advertise on Google and search engines. And then I was diagnosed, and we'll talk about ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD, I think it was about 4 years ago, roughly. I was 40 at the time. So yeah, I'll leave it there. That's a kind of, in a nutshell, if you can call it a very big nutshell, who I am. And we can dig into whatever you want about my journey and where I am today.
Yeah, because you've had a long entrepreneurial journey. You're not new to the entrepreneurial career, as it were. You've had 18 years or more in this, and obviously we know being an entrepreneur is never easy. It's never straightforward. It's filled with problems and challenges and stresses and frustrations and failures. And you really need to be quite resilient in order to do that. And, the sort of qualities you kind of need to do that are things like being able to be very quick thinking, very focused, very resilient, which obviously can be a challenge. And for you, having built such a successful business, which is fantastic, and then having to deal with it's down to, because obviously a lot of people were going through this during the pandemic. What was that experience like? Because a lot of people have gone through it. Some people have not come back and had that ability to come back, and some people still struggle today. I know I've certainly had my challenges with business since the crash, and then since the pandemic again. So it was kind of like a domino effect almost. And I just would like to get a little bit of an idea of what your perspective is on that.
So yeah, I think from looking at me as a human being, like I have ADHD, but my ADHD will show up and come across, have an impact in a different way to someone else. We're human, we're very complex human beings, and there's lots of factors that influence how I am, who I am today. I've always been, although I never thought I was, everyone around me told me I'm really resilient and I don't give up. I'm tenacious. And I think when we went through COVID, one of my biggest strengths is I'm really good at knowing where we're going to go very quickly. So I can pull up, take an overview and think, right, this is where we need to go. And I can take people there. That's definitely, I attribute that to my ADHD, my ability to do that. It's a real core strength of mine. So when COVID hit, I just saw opportunities, and I'm a pretty positive person, although I do experience depression, low mood, anxiety for sure. But generally, if you meet me in the street, people will probably hopefully say that I'm a pretty upbeat guy. And so, when COVID hit, we're just talking about COVID in particular. At that point, I've been running my own businesses for a long time. I've been through a lot of stress, a lot of problems, a lot of failure, a lot of mistakes, a lot of successes. A lot of things have gone very well, and those years of experience of learning to just have that persistence and that resilience is served me very well. But if you probably ask my mum or my dad, they would say I've always been that way. I've always been very much, I don't give up. And that's a real positive in some respects, and it's really not in others, because I struggle to let go of something, and I'm learning to do that. But through COVID, it was very difficult, and I did get very fixated on. I do a talk about this. I haven't done it for a while, around failure. It's called Failure is an Option, and it's telling my journey, my story about what happened to me through COVID. And what I learned, one of the biggest lessons I learned, is that we hold on to relationships, businesses, whatever it might be, from a sense of pride or obligation, or not wanting to fail, not wanting to look bad. And I really saw that when I came out the other side, that I probably should have actually closed the business sooner and moved away from it. But rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, is real for me in my how ADHD shows up. And I know, speaking to a fair amount of people with ADHD and my clients, it is our brains generally are more aware of everything. We're more sensitive to life, and so rejection and failure and being rejected really hurts for me, and I really struggle with it. So I can understand why I held on, because that was the ultimate failure, to have this built myself up to this level
Mm.
and to then have to suddenly fail, and that sense of rejection and looking bad and all that sort of stuff really kept me in that place. But I got pushed to the point where that was no longer an option, and so I really, it was the right choice. It was very clear. I was like, I'm done here. We are going to stop. Um, but maybe if I go back and have all this knowledge and experience today and took that back to then, I probably would have ended it sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising how much sort of, I think as an entrepreneur, there is ego involved in it as well.
Yeah,
To hold on to
definitely.
things. I think there's always a bit of that, like you say, and it's also your identity. You're
Yes.
giving up. You're not just giving up a business. It's hard work, it's effort, but it's identity as well, who you are. And that to
Definitely.
me, says a lot, really.
Yeah,
And then that can add to the challenges you feel psychologically as well.
absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned something that's really a really good point about identity, and how we that was a part of my talk actually, where I talk about my identity as a business owner, and owning a particular type of business. I was known as the cupcake man everywhere I went, because and that's how people knew me, and that was everything I did, and I lived that life for that particular business for 13 years. And then it's like slamming your foot on the brakes on a motorway at 70 miles an hour and suddenly coming to a stop, and it's like, now what? And
Yeah.
it's taken me three years to get to a place where I feel like I've been able to rebuild my identity. It took a lot out of me physically and mentally, but also my confidence and my self-esteem was, yeah, there was non-existent, because I I I portrayed to the world that I was okay, everything was fine, I was going to move through. And if you go onto social media and you look at certain um, influencers or certain
Mm.
groups of people, they're all about, dust yourself off and move on. And it's that kind of hustle culture, rise and grind, which I'm not a fan of whatsoever. And we do pick up on these things, as we go around life. And so I'm questioning, should I just be getting on with it? Should I be doing it a different way? And layer in ADHD and negative self-talk, and giving myself a really hard time. Yeah, looking back, actually, I was not in a good place, and I didn't realize it. Um, and sometimes, in my view, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but sometimes in life, you only realize where you were, and when you come out the other side, and you look back and go, "Oh, that was not good." But
Anything, it's kind of that, oh, I wish I'd done it sooner.
yeah, 100%. Like, absolutely. I wish I had have done it sooner. But life, that's the past. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not gonna expend energy on the regrets.
I mean, I do wonder though, some of these, like you talking about the rise and grind people, the influencers and stuff, but I wonder how many of them are really doing that. But they're doing
Uh,
what they think they should be doing because that's what everyone else is doing.
mm,
And some of them may have tremendous success, or how many of them are really struggling psychologically.
I
Uh,
think it's a
that to
large.
me is, because nothing is, a lot of people are not portraying who they really are on social media,
No.
and that's the problem. It doesn't just affect the youngsters; it affects us as we get older, particularly
Yeah.
if we are struggling.
Yeah. I
And that,
agree.
I think that can be a big problem as you're getting older, and you look at your life and you think, well, what have I done with my life, and where am I going, and things aren't working. And for
Yeah.
you it took you a while. You didn't know from the outset that you were ADHD.
No, I didn't. I'll tell you what I think's. Well, it's you'll take it. Whoever's listening will take it how they will, but I think it's quite. I have got quite a tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. I'm a bit cheeky, and I like to look through life and kind of laugh at things. And I'll tell you this little story, which I find quite funny actually, in a sort of British sense of humor kind of way. I had an employee, and he had ADHD, and he was diagnosed, and this was a good few, maybe a year before COVID, and he had challenges, and he
Mm.
shared that he had ADHD, and we supported him as best as we could, and I remember going and sitting at my computer and looking up. I wanted to understand what the condition was and how I could best support him. And I read through the list of symptoms, and not at one point did I go, "Oh, that's me." Like I just didn't even clock. Um, and it wasn't until I've talked about this quite openly in the past. As I did look at some statistics. I think I'm not going to name numbers off the top of my head, but it's a good proportion of people who have ADHD experience some form of challenge with drugs and alcohol or some
Mm.
form of substance. And I was one of those, and I went through some really tough times with it. Um, and that was the catalyst for conversations with friends, and another friend who had started the exploration of ADHD. And this, we were talking like 2019, 2020-ish, so lockdown, and this, it was talked about, but certainly not to the level it is today. And she said to me, "Do you think you're bipolar?"
Mm.
And I was like, my instant reaction, because I didn't understand the condition, and sadly, these terms will trigger for some people quite a reaction, because bipolar or addicts or even ADHD. And I was like, so I read up about it, and I
Yeah,
looked
you suddenly
through
get very stressed at that point.
yeah, you're like, oh my, So I went and I did some reading about it, and I was like, this
Mm.
doesn't fit. It doesn't fit for me. It doesn't seem like that. But I carried on looking, and I came across ADHD, and she mentioned ADHD, and I was like,
Mm.
now this fits.
Yeah.
And I had been in 12-step recovery programs, and I just could not get on with it. The more I learn about this myself, the more I realize why I couldn't. And I'm really stubborn. And I just, is part of my personality, and I want to do it my way. And I'm learning to recognize that more, because that doesn't serve me. And I also just want to make it really clear that this isn't any judgment or anything around 12-step programs. I've got two very good friends who've been in 12-step programs for 15, 20 years. It saved
Mm.
their lives.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm not dissing it at all. But I really struggle with it. And as I did more research, and I started to understand, maybe because what I was looking at it through was, I'm an addict, and that word had a lot of negative connotations to it, and I did not want that label.
Yeah.
Growing up as a gay man, labels for me, I'm sensitive about being labeled something, and I prefer the person first approach,
Yeah.
which
Because it's
is
almost like once you put that label, it's like a label, it's stuck on there.
exactly, and it becomes part of your identity, and I didn't want that. So
Yeah.
I really struggled with that. And so I was lucky, because I managed to get diagnosed quite early, and the waiting lists are now like years, potentially, depending on where you live. But for me, I got an appointment with the doctor, probably, I think, about 6 months. So not too
That's
long
not too
in
bad.
comparison. Yeah. And it went through that whole process, and had lots of conversations with my mum and my dad and friends and my brother around, what was I like as a kid. And and so I had the diagnosis. They confirmed, yes, you do have ADHD. And it was a mixture of relief and sadness. um Relief, because it was like, I've spent, and actually I feel quite emotional. Yeah, I get a wave of emotion, because it really does trigger something. I I had grown up, all up until that point, there's something wrong with me, and I'm not okay, and I'm different, and I'm weird, and I don't fit in, and I'm never gonna succeed, or I was single for 10 years, I'm never gonna be in a relationship. Who wants me? Or these sorts of conversations. And when the doctor said, yes, you do have ADHD, or however they need to word it, it was like, okay, I've got something I can hold on to that helps me to understand that my brain is just wired differently, and that doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make anything that mean there's anything wrong with me. It means my brain is wired differently, and that's it. And that was the relief. And then that came along with the sadness and the regret of what if I had been given the support? What if, at school, at college, at university, if my friends and the people around me were aware that I had this condition, and they could understand what challenges I faced. However, for me, my approach to life is, I did spend some time with that. I didn't just go, okay, whatever. I did spend some time, but I do look forwards, and that is in the past. I can't do anything to change it. I am where I am today. I've got what I've got today, and practice gratitude for what I've had. Like, I've been really lucky in life because I've grown up in a stable home, and my parents went through financial challenges. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't going to come from like some fancy place. We grew up in a very working class household, but my parents love, there's a lot to be grateful for. It could have been different, but it's not. And I've been through that. I still have days where I've stopped saying I hate my brain. I used to say that a lot, particularly in the first few years, but I've stopped saying that now. I've learned to love my brain.
Well, this is the thing, because actually some of the traits you have from ADHD, because a lot of entrepreneurs do actually struggle with this condition. They have this condition, and many of them have chosen to use this as like a superpower. Because, as you said before, because you think differently, because your brain's wired differently, you actually can come up with great solutions to problems, which has helped you create this other consultancy business.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that, if you are diagnosed, can hold you back. And in fact, it just means you have to change the way you do things, perhaps.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I just want to speak into, because I think we mentioned this before about the superpower. I think there are some people who don't like that label. And I just wanted to just to share that with anyone listening who might hear that word. And just to, I don't want to step over that and ignore that.
Okay, I'm sorry if that.
No, there's nothing. No, not at all. Because there's some people who take that and they like that and they use that. And I think it's a really important point. And there's nothing wrong in you saying that at all, in my view, at all. But that's what I think. That's what I think we need more of in the world, is being able to say, I'm going to take superpower. That's mine. And I'm going to use that. And I respect your choice not to use that word, but let me have it because it's me.
Yeah.
And I need that. So I do think I've got a superpower. I'm with you. I've got many superpowers. I'm really good at not focusing on stuff. No, I'm joking. No, I am. I'm really good at certain things. And they are, to me, a superpower. But then also working memory, like I've completely forgotten why we started talking about this.
I have that. It's an Asian thing as well.
Yeah. But you were talking about the strengths and the positives, and yeah, absolutely. There are. I'm really good at, I've been able to create 2 new businesses, and I get a lot. When I'm hyper focused, I get a lot done, and there's a lot about my ADHD which is really positive, and there are some things which really hinder me in some respects. But as you say, it's about learning to adapt, and that is a big reason why a lot of people with ADHD tend to end up working for themselves because they struggle with the corporate world, with the be at a desk at this time and sit there and do your work and then leave, and you can't, you know, it's very restrictive.
Very.
And then on the other side is running a business in itself is a lot of work, and it takes a lot out of people, because I've been having these conversations with people at networking meetings recently. I had one this morning. Unless you have been lucky enough to either grow up or work in like a family business, or you've had a mentor that's trained you, or you've worked in a small business and you've been really close to the owner or the founders, then, or how else are you going to learn how to run a business, right? It's the same as, I don't have kids, but I can imagine it's the same as a kid. Like, you can read all the books, but until you get the child who start a business, then you have to learn on the job. And there's so much to it, and there's all these roles.
Well, each one's different. It has different nuances to it.
Exactly. And it's balancing. I had a discovery call with a potential new coaching client today, and he was saying, how do I know how much time to spend on everything? I said, yeah, that's the art and of it is knowing, and that comes with time and experience. And then you add in ADHD, and it's kind of like, doesn't really necessarily go together very well on the face of things, because lack of focus, whatever it is. But for me, it would be lack of focus, it would be emotional volatility, it would be getting frustrated, and all these things that I am challenged with. I probably really would be best to go and work in a business where someone's telling me what to do, but then I have that I have that part of me which is I want to do it myself. I don't want to be controlled. So I know a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs who have ADHD. I mean, I coach them, and I sit and listen to all the challenges that they have, and I'm like, yeah, I get you. I have those as well.
Is it possible? Is it also possible with those highs and lows of what's happening with you psychologically, emotionally, perhaps, you have to kind of flow with that a little bit? So on the days when things are good, you're really more energetic, more focused, and when you're not feeling so good, you just have to say, well, okay, that's the way it is. Just take it easy, a little bit easier today, maybe. Could that be something that works?
Definitely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest benefits for working for myself, is complete flexibility. I've had to undo however many years, and still probably like 20, how long was I working for? 20 years or something like that in a job in some form, that ingrained way of working, which is 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And if you're not working, you're being lazy, because we live in a capitalist society. It's all about productivity. So there are days where I really struggle to step away from my desk, because there's this kind of sense of, and then you've got social media, and everyone's working 60 hours, everyone's grinding away.
Are they?
Well, no, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. What you said earlier about social media, like, the reality is there's very few people that are really doing it that way and succeeding. But everyone's putting this message out of, look how hard I'm working, look how successful I am. And so our brains absorb that message, and I do have to push against that sometimes, really quite hardly. But it's really, really important. It's a key strategy is knowing to stop and step away from the desk. And my diary moves around quite a lot because of that. And it's about having compassion and understanding for yourself, and learning what works for you. That's a big thing. The benefits rather of ADHD coaching versus non-ADHD coaching is that a lot of the things that I do with my clients is understanding them and what works best for them, and undoing the narratives and the ways that we've been taught and trained growing up as this is what it should look like, and going, well, no, get rid of those. We're not going to look at those anymore. We're going to look at what works best for you, because you're going to be far more productive and effective in doing what you want to get done if you are able to do that how you want. You know, I'm a big advocate for people living their life how they choose. You know, gay man. That's a big part of my struggle and my activism, and what I'm passionate about is no one gets to define how you live your life. It's your life. Everyone should be free to live how they choose. And so that comes into my coaching as well, and what I encourage people with ADHD to do, because otherwise it's going to be a miserable existence.
Yeah, and you know, we all need to work. Majority of us need to work to
Of course,
keep ourselves going.
absolutely.
But you've kind of got to find your happiness in what you do. You don't want to wake up and dread it or feel demotivated or stressed out, because that then feeds into every other aspect, your health, you know, the way you interact in your relationships, all this kind of thing. So it's kind of, I guess we kind of, like we touched on it earlier about, you know, being able to be who you are and live the life you want your way, providing you're not hurting anyone else, no one else is getting damaged by it.
Of course.
And I think many of us, and I've had this conversation before with other people, about sometimes we're living ourselves for other people. It could be, you know, a friend, it could be a family member, their story, whatever it is that they've told you from a good place to help you, but maybe it can hold you back. And maybe it's time that we need to sort of start thinking about, you know, who am I and what is it I want to do with my life? And it's really, maybe the money, maybe the entrepreneur isn't what's going to necessarily make you happy, and coming to that decision is hard, but maybe, like you say, you've got to go through that struggling to come out the other side. And when you're dealing with something like ADHD, I mean, I was looking at some stats from ADHD UK the other day, and I think they were saying something about 2.6 million people in the UK have ADHD, but 2 million are undiagnosed.
Yeah.
And that is really going to cause you a lot of problems. So I do wonder, you know, is there enough talk about this and helping people say, well, maybe this is something you should go and get checked out, because that's going to change and help you so much moving forward.
There's never enough conversation about it. In my opinion, I think the biggest challenge we have is these people who have a very negative, the people that just don't have any tolerance or understanding of mental health and the mental side of who we are as humans. Oh, it's just made up. Oh, you're just being lazy. Oh, this or that. Everyone's got a bit of ADHD. Like, I can list a load of, you know, these things that people say and dismiss. And that gets in the way of us being able to have conversations. I mean, it doesn't get in the way of us having this conversation, of course, but it stops people. Like what you said earlier, and this is a question to ponder, is like, I do think that if you're not living your life constrained by other people, that's pure freedom, self-expression. And I'm going to assert that we all have, whether it's people directly in our lives or society, these,
I was going to say society is a big problem.
Society, and so I'm really passionate about helping people to break free of those. I'm not sitting here pretending that I'm not constrained by that. Of course I am. I have my own challenges, but as much as possible to live a life we love, because, you know, 2 years ago, I saw a good friend of mine for the last time in San Francisco, and I didn't realize that was going to be last time. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and was
sorry.
And thank you, and was gone in 6 months. And he was the life and soul of the world. Like, he is the most beautiful. I remember him as the most beautiful person. I've got a photo of me and him taken at his wedding on my desk in my office, rather, to remind me that life is short and we only get, well, I believe we only get one go at this, and we spend so much time and energy wasting it on, you know, worrying about what other people think and etc. And look, again, I have my problems with that, so I'm not sitting here going like, oh yeah, I've got it all sorted at all. And it's just to, you know, encourage people to, you know, if you think you do have ADHD or you are challenged by some aspects of it, there's some really great books out there. I've just started reading one, which I can't remember his name, but I will. I'll let you know what it is, so you can put it in
We can
in the
post it
show
in the
notes.
show notes.
I'll post it in a thing. Yeah, exactly. Which I've just started reading, and there's lots of great people on social media that are talking about this, and there's lots of resources in YouTube, and there's lots of places you can go. And I say to people, because diagnosis is a challenge in the UK, I think it probably is everywhere, but here waiting lists are long on the NHS, and certainly not many people can afford and have the luxury of private diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So, there's lots of resources out there. Go and immerse yourself in the world, and and soak up as much information and start to see what fits for you. I always advocate for a medical diagnosis. I think they should happen, but I get the reality, and I've had a number of clients come to me and say, I'm not sure, don't have a diagnosis, or I'm not sure if I've got it. And I say to them, you know yourself really well. Your challenges are your challenges. There are benefits to diagnosis, but I'm taking you on an individual basis. What are you struggling with? What do you struggle with as an individual? And we're going to go to work on that. So I think that's another thing that people could do, is just, spend some time thinking about, well, what are my struggles and what do I need help with? I got my diagnosis. It helped. Don't get me wrong. It does give me a sense of validation. But I went on to medication, stimulant medication, and I quickly came off of it because I couldn't take it. Because I had problems with drugs, and they're amphetamine based. And I was like, this is not a good idea. They helped, but I just was like, the risk was too great. So I stopped taking them.
Yeah, but also is it the medicine that they're very quick to shove pills in down us whenever they get a chance? It's a good money maker, but maybe are there other ways to resolve the problem and improve your situation?
Yeah. So I mean, I think given the state of our healthcare service and the lack of funding for support, I can understand why sometimes doctors are just like, try this. And I have to say, I've got clients who are on medication, and for them, it's a game changer, and it really did make a big difference to me. So, but I do agree with your point that they are too quick, and that if we had the luxury of time and money, then we would explore other avenues. So I have had no choice but to learn how to manage my ADHD without medication. And it's really boring. It's really standard advice. Eat well, avoid alcohol, get sleep, exercise, hang out with your friends, go out in nature, laugh. I did a list of this on someone's post the other day. It's really basic. Like,
it's simple advice, but it's across the board for pretty much everything in life.
Yeah.
Have a healthy, a bit of balance.
Yeah.
Have fun, be yourself, but as long as most of the time you're taking care of your health and well-being.
Yeah. I will add to that, because that was my kind of slightly cheeky response. Of course, that is all really important. But however, when people are, I know that when I before I got diagnosed, I was in moments of really deep distress from frustration and just like, I don't know what to do. I was lost, I was frustrated, and I was helpless, actually. And I didn't have anyone around me that went, I get it. They were just looking at me like, I don't know how to help you. And it was it's community, and that's what makes my life so much better. The ADHD community. I've got my business bestie, Siobhan Fox, and we connected on LinkedIn. She lives a few hours away from me. We've met up a few times, but we voice note each other pretty much every day, and we just talk and we share. And she's ADHD as well, and we just, sometimes it's just rambles or venting or whatever. And it's just that's such a big important part. The minute you get in front of someone else that understands you, I'm sure you may have had this experience for whatever in your life,
100%.
and you just go, oh, I'm not alone, and someone gets it.
Well, I think this is the thing, when you work for yourself, particularly if you work on your own, there's a lot of time you are isolated and on your own, and this becomes a problem, particularly as we get older as well, social isolation. And so but as soon as you talk to someone, doesn't matter whether it's at the shop, the supermarket, the cashier, whether it's a friend or a business associate or a client, you're just chatting, it suddenly lifts you. So I think having someone that you really can just say, okay, I just need to chat to someone. It doesn't even have to be about the problem, it just be talking. I think that makes a huge difference, because I know I've had that problem before. I've spent sometimes days in front of my laptop not seeing anyone, and your mood starts to come down, and just having a short interaction, suddenly it changes everything.
Oh, can't agree more with you at all. Last week, through my own fault, really, I ended up spending the whole week at home. I normally go down to Brighton, nearby where I live, and I've got a co-working space that I work from, and I Mondays, Wednesdays there, and Thursdays I do some work for an agency down in Brighton. So I'll at least have 1 or 2 days out, and then I spent the whole of last week by myself, and by the end of the week, my mental health it's just a really slow decline over the week. And that's only been through practice. And this is the habit and the practice I've had to get into. And I think this is important for everyone, particularly with ADHD, it's practice. We don't go to the gym and do one workout and come out like 6-pack and buff. We have to keep on going back. And it's the same for the mind. We have to keep on practicing. That didn't work. Okay. Don't beat myself up about it. Self-compassion is really important. Okay, that didn't work this time. Oh, I missed that meeting. Oh, I forgot to do that thing.
Yeah.
And it's not beat yourself up. It's like, okay, self-compassion. It's okay. You made a mistake. It's all right. No one's going to die. Well, hopefully. And practice and do it again. So that's what I've been doing, experimenting, and have fun with it. I have fun with it. I go, well, last week was terrible. I even did a post about it. I was like, last week was poo, and this week's been much better. And this is what I've learned from it. And talking to people and being out with people, getting outside, it's super important. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else like in terms of strategies other than what we've already discussed. And I think, things like as well, journaling, which I hate because I don't want to sit and write.
Yeah, it's kind of something I've kind of gone through stages of, affirmations and journaling, and I do it for a short period of time, and then nothing happens that I want to happen, and I get frustrated and I don't do anything. No. Then I come back to it, and it's like,
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So for me, I'm no journal expert. Siobhan's much better than me, and we joke about it because I'm like, oh, I did some of that bloody journaling today, but I did it the other day, and it's just, I think for me, it's about practicing slowing my brain and my body down. Really good example of this is, which I know a lot of ADHDers will get, this getting out the house on time. And it's not just rushing, it's like nervous system is on mega high alert, and everything, you can literally feel it all in my body. I'm like, it's a horrible feeling. And I got into the shower, and my brain's going, you're late, you've got to go. And I literally stopped, and it was almost like watching a slow motion film. I literally just breathing, and I just literally was like washing myself so slowly, and then I got out of the shower and I walked out really slowly. And there's something about that slowing your physical movements down that helps your brain catch on, and that's been a really powerful thing for me. May not work for everyone, but it definitely works for me. It's just, it feels like you want to rush, but just slow down and let your nervous system calm down, because mine can get triggered really quickly.
I think that's good advice for everyone, is just to slow down a bit, because the lifestyle, the society, everything around us, the environment is all about rush, particularly living in a big city. It's sort of rush. And if you add to that the pressures of your work, add to that ADHD, or in some cases not knowing you've got ADHD when maybe you do, this is just adding to the whole process, and that's affecting your health. It's affecting everything. I can't stress that enough. So I mean, when someone comes to you What sort of process do you take them through?
When people come to me, so I offer ADHD business coaching and ADHD coaching, two distinct things there. And so, you know, irrespective actually of either of those things, when they come to me, I want to understand their story, how they've got to where they are today. And then I want to understand specifically with their ADHD or neurodiversity diagnosis or not, what their experience is like, understand what their challenges are in work, at home, wherever they want to explore, but we'll often go through that. I say wherever they want to explore because, you know, I'm a trained coach. And so a lot of what I do is client led. I am also a mentor as well. So I bring my experience, but that still is client led. And so, you know, we go where the client wants to go with maybe a gentle nudge from me, and really understand what their challenges are and dig into that. And then it's about, what do we want to look different? What do you want to be different at the end of our time together, whether that's a session or whether that's an agreed. I always want to try and to get an agreement in terms of a time scale, so we've got something to work towards. But what does that look like? And I often say to people, try and think of this, but take out the how and the ifs and the buts. If you could wave a magic wand and have your life look a certain way, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And I just let them talk and, you know, write notes down and get a sense of what they want to achieve. And then it's about how are we going to get there? What support do you need? Not just from me, but from people in your life. What actions? I am action orientated. I love to talk. I love to talk about feelings. I love to talk about stuff. However, there has to come a point when you go, right, now what we're going to do about it.
Yeah.
Because it's action that makes the difference. And then figure that out, and then go on a wonderful journey with my clients who I adore working with, and that's the thing. I'm a natural helper. I just love helping people, and I want everyone on this planet to have just a great life as much as possible.
Well, that would be the ideal.
It would.
We're a little way away from it, but
I know I'm chipping away in my little corner, doing what I can every day.
So, I mean, in your experience as well, so if someone is thinking, well, maybe I do have ADHD, what would you recommend they do? Are there any particular symptoms or signs that they should be looking out for? And how would you recommend that they go about going to find out and go on that journey of discovery?
So if someone was thinking they've got ADHD, or, you know, how would they get started? So the kind of official, certainly within the NHS, how they diagnose people with ADHD is a set way, and it's, I can't remember, you've got to have, I think it's 6 or 7, there's a certain number, I can't remember off the top of my head, I'll be honest, of symptoms, and you have to exhibit those symptoms in more than one area of your life. Like, I think, let's say it's 9, as an adult, you've got to have 6 or 7, for example. The book I was talking about earlier, which I now remember what it's called, is called Taking Charge of Adult ADHD. It's by Russell A. Barkley. And some people consider him to be one of the leading figures in adult ADHD. And I've just started reading that book, and he has a slightly different approach, and he lists 9 of the symptoms, which I'm not going to be able to remember. And he suggests, and if you go and read the book, it actually suggests these are, if you've got, I think it's 4 or 5 of these, then you're likely to have ADHD. So I would potentially go and look at that book, or go and find, you know, some well-reviewed books on ADHD, and look at the symptoms on the NHS as well. And you know, there's 3 types of ADHD. There's inattentive, impulsive, and combined. And so you might have some of the symptoms from one, or some symptoms, from one and not the other, or a bit of both. But go and look at the symptoms online, and then think about, is this problem, or are these challenges I face consistent enough in my life and in different areas? So work, school or education, your relationships, your intimate relationship, your home life, like different areas of your life. It has to get the official diagnosis, it has to cover a lot of these different areas, or a few of these different areas. And what this book, Russell Barkley says, is that the vast majority, I think it's like he said, like 98% of people need to have had those symptoms in childhood. Like, what he's suggesting is that you don't get ADHD as an adult. It has to be from the past. So go and speak to people in your life that have known you for a long time, and have a conversation with them. And if you don't know already, explore it with them as well. My mum was really helpful in helping me to understand what I was like at 5 or 6.
You actually don't remember?
No, I don't remember. I just remembered a cheeky little scamp.
Not a bad memory, then.
Yeah, exactly. Who loved like running around the place and having fun. So that would be my first starting point. And then it's a question of, I always ask my clients, if they are thinking about it, or if I'm talking to people, it's like, why do you want to get diagnosed? The answer might be obvious. For some people, it's that validation. Also access to medication. There's other aspects of your healthcare and of your school, your education, your work. Once you have a diagnosis, it's very helpful because it's protected against discrimination. It's a health condition. You have access to work funding, although you don't actually have to be diagnosed to get access to work funding, which I find a bit strange personally, but that's just my own opinion. And so there's a lot of reasons. So then you can, through the right to choose, through NHS and the right to choose, there is Psychiatry UK, which is as far as I'm aware, because I haven't looked into this for a few years, was always the go-to place where you can go, and you have to get a referral from your GP. You get referred through to them, and then you go onto a waiting list, and you have a diagnosis. Or you can go privately and go and find, there's lots of people out there who will do it privately. Of course, you've got to be careful, because even the people who know a lot about ADHD say themselves that it's quite hard to diagnose, in the sense that you're only going off people's lived experiences. There isn't a test they can do. So just be mindful of who you're going to, and think about why you want it and why it's important for you.
So start with going into your own research, really, is the best way.
Yeah, exactly. From credible sources. I'll always say that. As I was talking, I just suddenly thought, would I need a diagnosis today? Like, if I didn't have one and I knew I wasn't going on to medication, would I be so desperate want to go and get a diagnosis? I'm not sure I would. Really, doesn't really make much difference to my life, apart from the fact that I've got a letter that says I've got it from a doctor, which makes me feel more confident, because there are a lot of people out there who think it's BS or whatever. So and then go and get some support. And as I say, there's lots of different places you can find the ADHD community, and it's growing. There's lots of great people out there. So go and seek those people out, and start to build a network around you of people that you can go to, because I'm really fortunate. I'm pretty sure my husband's unique character, and he's got certain quirks about his personality that make me go, I think you might have it as well. But it doesn't. It doesn't. So I'm lucky. What I mean is, it doesn't really make any difference. He is the way he is, but he gets me. And he supports me, and that's the biggest challenge I know for a lot of people who don't have partners, husbands, wives, parents, siblings, friends who get it. And that's a big problem for people, is that their people close to them don't get it and don't understand them, or sometimes worse, think that they're making it up or it's all BS.
Which is why you kind of need to, so it's kind of like you need to go out there then, in that, if that's the case, and find people in that community that will at least, help you navigate that and support you. Because I think with anything, it's having that support, whether it's with ADHD, whether it's as an entrepreneur, or they're both combined, or other health issues that may be coming along. It's having someone or a group of people that you can go to and say, look, I just need to talk about this, and get some guidance, and sort of, help me get through this in the best possible, most positive way.
Definitely. 100%. Yeah. And there's lots of amazing people. The ADHD community is awesome. As of course you'd expect we are.
Of course you're wonderful. Get to Brighton. We all need to get to Brighton.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, I hope it comes across like I'm so sarcastic like half the time. I say stuff like that, going, "Oh, we're so awesome," and then someone had told me like 2 years ago, was like, I made a joke and I said like that. I said, "Oh, I'm so awesome," and she sort of looked at me. I said, "I am being sarcastic." She went, "Yeah, I have no idea. You don't come across like that at all." And I was like, "Oh my God, I've been running around the world for this long, thinking I'm being sarcastic, and people think I'm being serious." So yeah, I've got that kind of sense of humor.
Well, look, this has been an amazing conversation, and I know lots of people may want to find you out, search you out. Now, I know you have your own podcast called.
I do.
How Not to Run a Business? How Not to Run a Business.
Yeah.
No, I advise everyone to go and check that out as well.
Yes.
And then if people want to get in touch with you, they're thinking, I need someone. We all need a bit of Jeremy in our life. How can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Is probably one of the best places. So most of the social media profiles, it's Jeremy Jacobs UK, all one word. So Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, I don't post on there very often. Yep. It's all Jeremy Jacobs UK, or my website jeremyjacobs.co.uk.
Fantastic.
You can get in touch with me there. And thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
It's been brilliant. I've loved talking to you. You are so positive and so motivating. I love it. And I know lots of people are going to think, right, I need to do something about myself, or at least go and start that process of researching themselves, their history, how they behave, and then taking those positive steps. And no, it's not the end of the world. It actually can be a really good transformational time for you once you get the right help and support. Okay, Jeremy, well, thank you.
I just want to say something that just to say to that, please do reach out. And I have to say that like that because I know that I'm a coach, so people think they reach out to me, I'm going to try and sell them something. I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I really am not.
Maybe some cupcakes.
Maybe some cupcakes, exactly. But no, please do reach out, because I've got connections and lots of great other people in my network, and I'm really genuinely here to support people. I've had many conversations with people over the years. They just want someone to talk to, and they don't know. Then I'm here. Come and say hello.
Absolutely, do that. Absolutely recommend it. And as I say, listen to his podcast as well, and support him that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
But thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining me today on Unleash Your Inner Athlete. And thank you, everybody who is listening. And we look forward to seeing you next time here on the channel. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Unleash Your Inner Athlete. You're clearly a very loyal listener and enjoying the content because you stayed all the way to the end. And that means so much to us here, as I love to see that you are enjoying the content we're bringing to you. And I want to be able to grow the channel more, bring you more fantastic guests, and give you more quality information that are going to help you maintain that quality of life you desire and keep you at peak performance. But in order to do that, I do need to ask one little favour, and that is, could you please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell? Because as the channel grows and we bring you more episodes, I want you to be the very first to get each episode and listen to that episode before anybody else can, as soon as it drops. So just do me that one favour, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next time here at Unleash Your Inner Athlete. Thank you so much for joining us.